Good morning, RC. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Uh, very welcome, warm welcome to this session. Yesterday we discussed about the television as a medium of mass communication and writing for television. Uh, During the discussion, we compared the television with radio and other media like print media, then radio. So we found out that television is a highly specialized media. It is a very intimate media. It is a social media, and also television media is one which has the sync of both audio and video. Plus, it has animation. Plus, there is a text part in it, graphics, and so forth. So, comparing with the radio, which is principally a sound medium, television has a lot to do with the different components, and all these components make the television very useful yet very complex medium in the sense that it requires very skillful handling. It requires a very large team to for the production, because as we discussed yesterday, there is a script writer which is the point of discussion that we are here to discuss as a budding authors. And besides this, we also discussed that there is highly technical terminology uh, uh, that is to deal with various aspects of television. All these aspects make television a very important media, yet a very complex and media which is highly commercialized. We also noted that there is a lot to do with the commercials as regard the television. We discussed that like radio, television also has a large range of programs. It has a very principal component, that is the news programs. There are news, pure news, which are telecast from the television channels. Then there is other programs which are like current affairs program. There is a video magazines programs. Then there are programs for children. Then there are programs for certain other groups which we noted as a special audience program, SAPs, just like radio. So while writing for all this, the principal idea was to discuss as to what goes into one's becoming a creative writer, creative author for television writing. So the very important part was the television deals with both words and visuals, sound and visuals. So it is very important that there is a very perfect, there is a very homogeneous synchronization between the two, because the writer has to provide space for bringing in the visuals, bringing in the images, bringing in the narrations, and so forth. So we also came to understand and that usually there is gradation of scripts which are written for the television. Usually there is a script which is written by the author, that is a very exhaustive one, a comprehensive one. It details all these things. But then when it goes to the program director, it is re-edited, and a shooting script is or a script which deals with various components very categorically, bringing in the technical names like different shots, close shots, pan shots, wide shots, like this. And there is a certain other technology like cue, fading, uh, panning, and so forth. So the program director brings in the different technical terms while revising the script. Ultimately, when the script goes to the producer, the person who actually produces the program, or the production director, we can also call him production director. Then there is a screenplay which is prepared. So the screenplay means actually it underlines or highlights those sequences which are to be shot, which are to be actually visualized or shot. And then there is arrangement for shooting the those screenplay within inside the studios where everything is set. There is a large studio for television production. Then there is a big team of engineers which helps in various technical functions which are associated with the shooting. Besides, there are program director, then there are stage manager, there are cameraman, whole range of lot of people have to coordinate and cooperate with each other. That way, the television production is very complex, but it is very useful. It is highly popularized amongst the viewers, and also it brings a lot of other information. As I mentioned maybe day before yesterday while talking about the radio, I said that in radio there are certain things which are approximated. The diction is slightly different because everything is voiced. Everything has to be orally narrated. In television, a lot is not narrated. Sometimes something there are incomplete sentences. Those who indicate that there is now the role for the visuals to come in and interpret what is being what is being anticipated. So television is also a medium of unpredictability. That means sometimes if there is a TV magazine, then we do not know. For example, if there is a personality upon which the TV video or TV documentary is based upon, and it is being shot, then there has to be an element of unpredictability, because at some point of time the personality upon which the TV documentary is being built might have gone through certain unexpected events. Particularly if we recall that during the Chandrasekhar as a small duration Prime Minister of India, there was a very strong opposition and dharna by Ram Jethmalani, and he was quite badly manhandled by certain hoodlums, just by he was opposing the prime ministership of Chandrasekhar. What I'm trying to say is that television is a medium which projects the realities. So therefore, sometimes projecting all these realities, one cannot predict them. I mean, one is definitely to predict when it is being painted on a real thing that has happened. But one has to create a certain situation in the program itself that would sound as if there is a very strong element of unpredictability. Considering all these aspects, we can say television is essentially a social medium or medium of drawing room where people can sit together and they can watch, they can enjoy. Like radio, television also has different roles to play. For example, as I mentioned to you, that it has role to play as a channel, as a medium of information. So there are news, there are current affairs program, there are certain other programs which deals with the news. At the same time, television also has a role to play as a very strong medium of entertainment. So we know that there are feature films which are telecast on this medium. There are soaps, there are operas, there are serials, there are certain other programs like Chitrahar, like new film, music, cine sangeet. Then there are certain other programs which are based on certain films. There are films review, film samiksha. So there are a lot of programs which deals with the entertainment aspects of the medium. Finally, as we discussed, it has very strong role to play as medium of instruction or education. I briefly discussed the ETV, the educational television concept, which has played a very strong role in the last 50, 60 years in the society. And there are television ETV channels almost in all the states now. And these ETV channels have a very specialized team of professionals, those who coordinate with various different educational institutions like universities, IITs, CIET, and various other institutions, NCERT, NIOS, and then along with their cooperation, these ETV channels bring about the programs which are having academic programs, developed in serials in different episodes. Those are basically educational contents, and when those are broadcast, then they cater to the needs of certain sectors, certain group of people like industrial workers, like young population, which is otherwise engaged in certain other professions. These educational contents are produced in terms of the lectures which are recorded. So, sometimes those are animated lectures, sometimes those are storyboard based lectures. A story is created upon the academic contents and then it is telecast. I told you very important initiative of the television channel that is to broadcast educational programs is the Gyan Darshan. Gyan Darshan is one such national channel which telecasts 24 hours a day, and it is owned by the Educational Ministry, previously known as Ministry of Human Resource Development, and there are certain collaborators in it. IGNU is one principal coordinator of the entire broadcast, but there are certain other institutions, some IITs, CIET, NCART, and various other institutions also, cooperate and contribute to their academic programs. The Gyan Darshan channel is a mandatory channel that I would like to specifically mention. And as per the guidelines, this channel has to be carried out by all the cable television providers, and it has to be provided free of cost. It is free to download channel. So this channel is also one important initiative as a educational provider channel. It has certain programs which have been entirely based on the video lessons, and these lessons can, if they are properly followed, they cover almost the entire programs, certain programs, not all the programs of different institutions, and notably Indira Gandhi National Open University. So, dear learners, I think that is a very important initiative. This Gyan Darshan channel, as I mentioned, there's a Gyanvani channel, which is the interactive radio broadcast channel, and it has certain sessions which are interactive radio counseling channels. There is a live interaction between the academics of the university, those who are in the studios, different studios of located in different parts of the country, and then the university students or other common public which is tuning to the radio stations which is providing Gyanvani channel, then they can interact, so they can ask academic questions. They can, sometimes there are sessions which provide specific instructions about the handling of the programs, like programs which are coordinated with the help of regional service, then that speaks about the student support services. And at times there are certain episodes which are based on the examinations and various issues that deals with examinations and admissions. So there is a very strong network of educational television channels, and also at All India Radio there is a very strong support through the Gyanvani radio channel. So that was a bit about the yesterday's discussion. I hope it makes certain issues clear as to why television is different. It is different since it has a number of components which do not have any role to play with the radio. Therefore, it is a very complex media, but at the same time, it caters to the different needs of the both the general population as a source of information, as source of entertainment, as source of education. Today we will move from this particular point and we will come to the television ads. Those are TV ads as they are called. I discussed briefly with you yesterday that what is television. Television is called. It is also called a tube. It is also called the hidden, the voice or the idiot box. That all sounds that it has nothing of its own. Whatever is fed, it exactly gives that back in a program format. So if the very good contents are fed, there will be very good program. The contents are not good, the script is not written properly, and if it is not shot with perfection professionally, then there will be jerks in the program. There won't be balance of audio and video and so forth. So in that sense, it has nothing of its own. It's like zombies, like it is not think, it doesn't think anything, it is automatic and it is unthinking. It means it doesn't think of its own. In fact, no medium thinks on its own, but television is also part of that. So one shouldn't expect that television itself will come with something new which is not fed to it. So coming back to our topic for the day, that is the television advertisements or the TV ads as we commonly refer to the term. Advertisements, as generally we understand, it is to advertisement is to turn one's attention, and that means to attract somebody's attention too. We go to market and we suddenly see a poster and it says, "Hurry up, sale ends today." So we become very curious. Hurry up, sale ends today, and then it catches our attention. At the same time, what it does, it informs. It is telling us that there is a sale, but the sale is ending today. Uh, it is something which is what in Hindi we called it's a bhompo. It is a announcement. It is a commendation, of something. So it allows some information. It sounds boldly that yes, this is happening, and at the same time, it is a device to obtain the public favor. So when there is a sale, people will go and they'll buy the good stuff in that way. So this is what it does. It basically attracts one's attention. It informs. It gives a larger or loud announcement about something to happen. That way, it is a device which obtain public favor. On the other hand, in advertisement, normally an advertisement is for selling something. It is not selling without a profit. So it has a component of revenue. Financial aspect is associated. So it's an activity which definitely has a role with regard to taking or giving the money. That is only then it will be called advertising. There are different advertisements. Those are like advertisements just to popularize uh, uh, certain policies, certain movements, certain important aspects like hygiene, health, particularly like in Corona Kal. We had the sanitation, that is kind of a social obligation achieve advertisement. And there are particularly the advertisements, those who have the commercial angle with it. So what all goes into making the advertisement? Advertisements are slightly different. Those are not simple text. These are the text which exhorted the buyer through gestures. It in a way invigorates a sense of buying in the buyer or in the viewer through its gestures, sign, and words. They are very catchy words. There are very beautiful and very attractive signs on it. Like if there is a billboard, then it has a very beautiful girl. She is sitting on the motorbike, and then that is there might be some text like this: "Way to wonders." So there is a very strong wording there. There are signs, there are pictures, then there are gestures. Somebody will be very in a very pleasant mind if something is to be prompted to be bought. But if something else like life insurance has to be sold, because these are products, then there will be a sad person sitting, and it will sound as if he didn't get the life insurance policy, and thereby now he is in dire situation because he is in financial stress. So there, that kind of poster, that kind of image will be on the poster, and he might have holding his head, so that is a gesture, and there might be words like a late awakening leads to nothing, like this. Some wording like this. So it has very strong wording, very strong signs, which are very pragmatic and gestures. And then there is a threat aspect, implicit way, which is in the text. Like we have very popular slogan, let's say, जीवन के साथ और जीवन के बाद. So जीवन के साथ while one is living, जीवन के बाद when one will not be living. So that means the life insurance will be with you all the time. While if you are alive, then it will pay you the whatever amount you deposited and policy you purchased. But if something untoward happens, then there will be assistance. So there's a threat perception that if you don't buy this particular policy, so there will be kind of eventualities. So it has threat perception, and it exhorts. It is repetitively saying something that yes, this product, this thing is very very important for you to buy. So that perception is also with the advertisements. What I'm trying to put in through this discussion about the advertisements is that while when one writes the text for advertisements, or a budding author, budding creative writer is asked to write a script for the advertisements, then one has to keep all these aspects in mind. Means it should catch the attention, it should give some information, it should it should allow the uh, information. I mean, it should put the information in a very loud manner, in very clear manner, and it should put the information in a repetitive format, as if it is being repeatedly said. Uh, then I came to a point that what advertisements are primarily, uh, how they are, how they are, what they do, they contain, or how they are written. So they are written in a very clear voice, in a very clear wording, in words which are very attractive, which catches the attention. And then there are certain images, there are certain gestures, and I give you example. Uh, just like one very useful example in our society is about like um, Punjab National Bank, Bharose Ka Bank. So the bank you can bank upon. You see, the very core difference is that they go very differently, giving the information or asking you to take the services or buy the services of one particular product, but if those are differently put in the different languages. So in English, there is a the bank you can bank upon. Uh, so altogether, it means the bank where in which you can repose your faith. But if you go to its translation in Hindi, it says Punjab National Bank, Bharose Ka Bank, Bharose Ka Bank. But the name of the bank has also been added to it. What I am trying to say is that it is typically worded, and that means it has to be the target oriented. How does your target react to an information which is to be bought as a product? So it is not simply passing on the information just like we yesterday. It is not a news. It is not a general audience program or like anything. But it is a product which has to be sold, which has to be there, which has to be, which has to have a financial component in it, because services are sold, thereby some financial transaction takes place. So moving ahead from this particular point, we come to a situation that it is pictures and words. What do we do in the television advertisements? In the television advertisements, we write for the words, we write for the pictures. That means if there is a motorbike, then we write, for the motorbike, how it should look like, how it should be, it should be made more attractive, how it should be projected as a very appealing product, how it can be projected in such a way that even that person who is not financially very strong and maybe not in the need, still he is tempted to buy it. So this is a technique which is used in the advertisements, because advertisements are appealing, informing, exhorting one to buy the product or take the services, and also they are put in such a manner. If there's a large billboard, that might be a person, a boy, a very attractive, handsome lad sitting on a bike, very smiling, as if he is on air, and then one can say way to wonders like this, or whatever it is. So it is just I'm just trying to put in a situation. So it is primarily pictures, in the words. So it is to putting the pictures in the words. The words will be woven in such a way that they make the picture alive. They make the picture a reality. It represents a picture. Uh, it is called the writing pictures. So it sounds a bit strange, bit odd, but it is known as a writing picture. So although it doesn't make any sense, pictures themselves are a very important kind of text, because one picture is worth 1,000 words, we said yesterday. So that way it is selling a show, selling something which is in terms of very appealing pictures. Uh, so what do we do through the words? We use very painted words. I think we understand what do we mean by painted. The words are words, of course, but sometimes we do not use such flowery language, rhymic words, or words which creates impulse, the words which prompts one to buy something, or like this. So there is a specific palette of lexicons. Sometimes even it doesn't care for the grammar. So we have very unconventional and very often it is in very unorthodoxical manner the language is presented. If one has to say, like, uh, there is a very popular advertisement, like, dil mange more, dil mange more. So this is very strange kind of text. It is for specific product, and if we understand it clearly, then it is for some specific cold drinks product. So dil mange more. There is a code mixing there, and it makes no sense. So it is very unconventional and unorthodox, but it is very important. You know, yeah, yeah, yeah. Yes, yes, true. Very clear. So we all know that there is a lot of reinforcement and the counterpointing in the television advertisements. Uh, Considering all these aspects, the advertisements have a language which is in a very different lexicon, which is in very unconventional style, and at times it is very presented in a very conversational style, but it's very reinforcement, like the bank you can bank upon. So it is assuring, it is reinforcing something. At times there is also a counter view which is presented, and we also know that the advertisements have very strong sense of selling line. Means, since we are here to sell service, we are here to sell a product, something. So one has to be very clear about this particular aspect, which is the selling line, or this selling a product. Sorry, there is a small interruption. So what is this selling line? What is this selling line? The selling line is something which creates an appeal to the product which has to be sold. So the selling line means putting the text, putting the uh, product in a vocalized manner. So there is a very strong integration of sound with the picture. So that creates a selling line. In television advertisements, we have seen that very highly specialized, professionals are engaged for the advertisements. So usually a small caption is there, and there might be more than one captions also, but that caption is voiced with such a strong bass pitch voice that that goes very well with the image or with the visual which is there. Like if there is a there are different types of motorbikes. If we may take the example, if we take the example of cars these days, there are cars which are primarily the luxury cars, but because the younger generation loves those cars which are very sturdy, but not that way very comfortable, but very rough and tough. So there will be like a roaring of a line, and it will be as if the car itself is roaring like a lion. So this is the selling line, or sometimes we also in radio we call it punch line. That makes the most impact. So this line is very important aspect of the advertisements, and it requires a lot of creativity from the writer. So usually we might have seen that I mean in a contrast with the normal text which we write for the programs or for any documentary or for any magazine program or for any other programs for radio as well as television, the creativity is most vivid, most evident in the advertisement films. So there's a juggling of words, there are perfect choice of words, there are perfect conjunctive, there are plays on the meaning. I mean, they do not, the words do not mean what they look like, they mean something else, you know. So there are a lot of pun on the words, and there are definitely double entries, which means what we see the words for the conventionally for a meaning, or what maybe its etymological meaning that is not the meaning desired, but it has a different meaning. So like this, lot happens with the preparation of copywriting for the advertisement films. So all these aspects are there as long as the advertisements are there. We will discuss few tips which are very important for writing the the advertisements. So usually you might have seen that for one particular television set, and earlier it was a radio also, like better by Naton. So there is a kind of tingling voice, tangier taste, better by Naton. Sometimes there is a rhymic order, and it is like a jingle. We always heard सब पढ़ें साथ चलें आगे बढ़ें सब school चलें, like this. It is very popular. So it is presented in a jingle style, and sometimes there's lot of assertion. Lot of assertion means like in all the events the chief guest is Amul cheese. So this is something stressing in an assertive statement that yes, this particular brand is the most important and it is dominating. So that means it should be utilized. So it is a exhaustion, it is a temptation, it is repetitive, and so forth. So this way we can see that there's a lot of repetition, and sometimes there are opposites also. There are certain products which are projected against a weak project, and then there is a higher order project. Then there are certain adjectives which are used, certain alliterations with other words, those are also there. And definitely there is unconventional use of language. So, as I mentioned to you earlier. Another aspect of the television advertisements is the reliability of the and the commitment. You see, in television, not only in television advertisements, but in any kind of advertisements, there is never commitment. Means those are not committed to be true in the sense that if something doesn't uh, 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 results in the promised way, then there you can't sue or you can't put claims for the compensation. So, keeping this point, very particular point of view, the advertisements are very deceptive. So their language is such that it is not very clear. It deceives in a manner. Uh, the advertisements are also not. They do not commit anything. So they are not only deceptive, they are non-committal also. The important aspects of this whole entire activity is that when the programs are prepared for ad programs are prepared, they are not reliable. They only present the visualization of the storyboard. So the storyboard is created, a storyline, which is primarily verbal, but in television, TV ads, it is also predominantly pictorial in nature, and also for various other media it is different. But certainly, if we talk about the television channel, then it is overloaded with the pictures. We can we can see a lot of visualization which represents the end product, which is written on the paper. So it's a very complex and mind-boggling. Something is written on the paper, but and it is presented in a manner that it ultimately becomes an image. It ends as an image in the production. Production means in the advertisement which is shown on the television channel. Uh, so, if we take a departure from this, if we come specifically to the television advertisements, how those are different, and what is specific about them. We know that television advertisements are, as far as their objectives are concerned, as far as their role is concerned, definitely they have a similar role as that of the radio, but they represent, or they are painted slightly differently. They have a lot to be they have a lot of painted words, they have a lot of words picturized, and then they also have mix of visuals, very strongly worded, very aptly drafted. In the recent trends, we see that TV advertisements are very, very popular. They are popular because their size is so huge. Their market is very vast, and in fact, they are presenting very panoramic view, and that creates a very different impression on the consumer. Television advertisements are also very important in the sense that if these are not properly done, then they magnifies the blemishes. Say, for example, if somebody is projecting a newly launched car, the manufacturer misses something, but if that is magnified, then that small lacuna is also magnified. So that small lacuna is very deceptively magnified, because that will not related to the selling of the car, but it will be related to selling of a particular paint, that if a very expensive car gets a dent or gets some kind of small blemishes, then it can be rectified with a very simple solution. So it is very intelligently painted, it is very intelligently produced to make space for the product, new product to come in and makes and predominates the whole situation, thereby becoming very popular amongst the buyers, amongst the audience or the viewers, so that they are tempted to buy it. So one thing is there that the TV advertisements, are aired at fixed times, so we know when what is coming, and usually we know what is the time for the television advertisements. So if one is interested in knowing more about the products, more about the services, then he or she can view the channel at that particular time. It is very important how the TV ads are structured. So those are initially conceived, then raw script is prepared, then the program director looks into it and he makes the script very crispy, very precise, and then all these grammatical rules, the conventions are overlooked, and very orthodoxically the text is redrafted and presented, and allow in real balance without any audio or video jerks with the visuals of the product which is to be sold. Uh, One important aspect in this whole process is like which is kept in mind, what is their USP? What is the USP of any product? If there is a clear statement about the USP of the product, then that USP is focused. What I'm trying to say, it is focused. So that is focused because it has to be a selling product and there has to be a selling line. Sometimes we know if we talk about different brands of coffee, but if one particular brand of coffee has to be put in, then how do we put in? So we know that this particular brand of coffee is very popular, is reasonably priced. It has a very nice fragrance, and it is used quite extensively in the households, in the various classes, in the various sectors, both in urban and rural, middle and upper class. It is a choice of large number of people. So forth, so how do we word it? The USP line would be, there is one example which is given there, coffee with a higher aroma. Coffee with a higher aroma. So we don't use the word Nescafe or we don't use any other brand name, but we call, there will be that particular brand in the visuals, and there will be text which will be coffee with a higher aroma. So here there are three things. One, it is not tea, it is coffee, because there is a bottle in the visual, so that automatically refers to that it is coffee. Higher aroma, higher in the sense that it has the best, and it also narrates its quality. So aromatic aroma, is associated with the specific idea about its quality, about its and about its flavor and its end satisfaction to the person who takes coffee or drinks coffee. So this aroma is the central uh, word which deals with the temptation, with the flavor that it will create. So in all the advertisements, big emphasis is given on the USP. What is USP in the entire description? Because the basic text will have all these things in it, like it is aromatic, it is the choice of both urban and rural masses, It is nicely or reasonably priced. So all this cannot be brought into as such into the advertisement, but then there has to be, the USP or the selling line. So the selling line is, for example, we discussed about the coffee. So coffee with higher aroma. So it deals with the impact that the coffee will create. So a budding author must keep all these things in mind, and when one writes script for the advertisement, all these things are definitely to come. So as I mentioned to you, Punjab National, the bank you can bank upon. The bank you can bank upon. So here all is a repetition, but otherwise there is no sense bank upon. Means, it is not what the word says, but it is something that you can rely upon it. But how for what you can rely upon? That means the bank is a stable bank. The bank will not collapse like that. There is a lot of uncertainty about certain financial institution. So here they are saying, no, this institution is worth a line. So that kind of creativity must be there with the author. He or she must be able to bring about this kind of impact through the words. So that is writing for advertisements for the television. Writing television advertisements for the radio, because then the text doesn't make much sense there. You see, in the advertisements, there those have to be very intelligently voiced. So we there is a very good example like school chale hum saath padhe hum chalo school chale. So this advertisement is very popular both on radio as well as television. In television, there is a small girl having a bag hanging around her shoulder, and she is calling a group of other children with her, and running in a way. So this is very appealing. But in television, it has the girl, it has a couple of other children, boys. Those are in group, hurrying to the school, having their uh, books with them, carrying their school bags with them. But the same is not in the radio. On the radio, on radio, it is purely the rhyme, the uh, set of words which have been chosen in a very appealing manner. Those have been presented in a very sweet and melodious voice. So there, the impression is created, impact is created by the voice, by the sweetness of the voice and the repetition of the words and like that. While on the television, there is no need to put all these things in the voice. Of course, there is a very melodious voice, but at the same time, there are very appealing picture of the children, how they are dressed. They are very elegantly dressed. They are very neatly. They have neatly tied hair. They have hanging school bags, and they are they are running. They are hurrying to the school as if they are highly motivated. So this impact has to be created. So it is painting words or picture words, all these things, all these very appropriately given titles. That how do we write for the television? Dear learners, we have discussed writing for television advertisements quite in detail. We'll have a brief look about the video magazines uh, on the television, which are there on the television. So there are television programs, there are video magazines. So very importantly, all the television programs, they have various components. They have visuals, they have audio, they have everything. But if we look at the particularly with the video magazines, they are slightly different from the television programs. So a television program, or rather we may call it a video program, deals with one particular aspect, one particular issue or case. If it is a video program, say for example, if it is school education, the video will be dealing with the school education alone. It will have in-depth, research into it, and it will have all the aspects of the school education. It will deal with the teachers, it will deal with the students, and so forth. But unlike a video program, video magazine, when we use the word magazine, it adds variety. It adds that it has different videos, a series of videos, uh, and all these videos are put in certain order, and that makes it gives it shape to it as a video magazine. So we know that there will be the video magazine is usually a program which is based on already telecast programs, and then the certain programs are chosen based upon a particular theme, and then all those videos are taken from those different episodes, and certain small videos are prepared, like if there is a 20 minutes video program, then maybe 4 to 5 minutes material is chosen out of it, and then reproduced to make it part of the magazine program. So magazine program will have number of videos, series of videos, and there is very strong role for the editorialization. That means for the editor has to play a very important role, because if it is not, if the producers of video programs, there is a temptation with the producers of the video programs. So they will always say, no, my video is perfect. So if the producer of the video magazine is not very, I should say, very experienced or very conscious, then he can fall prey to the temptation of excessive excessiveness, both in terms of choosing too many videos. At the same time, he can fall prey to the excessive editorializing. That means he can or she can take certain parts which are very central to the original video, and thereby what we can say, taking the soul out of the product. So that is very dangerous to the, not only to the original product, but also to the concurrent program, because it has to be it has to keep the very essence alive, and it should become part of that series of videos which will be forming a video magazine. So there are certain examples of the video magazine programs. Sometimes if it is about the security of our country, you see, if that is the title of the video magazine, India at the security crossroads. So then there will be a small video from, say for example, the China war. There might be a small video about the 1971 war. There might be a small video about the defense production in India. There will be some a small video about maybe 5 to 10 minutes about the Kargil conflict. Then there will be maybe another video about the space mission, which is going to have facility provided for the defense research and for the surveillance. Then there might be a small video which is there with the defense light aircraft, which is specifically prepared for the defense forces. Like that, there will be a number of videos, small videos, but dealing with different aspects. of defense and the uh, security and strategy for the safety and security of the country. So the video magazines can vary from 20 minutes to maybe an hour and an hour and a half. It depends upon the importance of the topic, and sometimes it can be serialized, maybe 30 minutes at one segment and another three episodes of 30 minutes in three different uh, uh, intervals. So that means it will be altogether having a duration of 120 minutes. Sometimes there are video magazines which are having the 45 to 50 minutes duration, and they will in fact they will have complete 1 hour of telecast, but there will be certain advertisements also, some certain announcements also. So what goes into making of video magazine? A small discussion. Initially, it is presented in a manner that there will be narration, there will be outline. Somebody will narrate about the central concept of the whole thing. Like for example, one can say India has been progressively becoming self-reliant in the defense equipments. It has long history. It has learned a lot of lessons. So today it is now almost self-reliant in the defense equipments. Our forces are highly professional, specialized, and well equipped like this. Then there can be small, scenario, small visual clip, which will be showing the parade on the Rajpath, and then there can be small interview with the defense chief. Then maybe another uh, another clip which will be showing like the fighter aircraft will be there. Then defense chief's interview, like this. It can go on. So it can continue. So sometimes these are small clips taken from different video programs and then put together and making a long sequence of program. So this way, it can be a good magazine. So the only difference between a visual video program and the magazine program is that video program deals with only one issue, whereas the magazine has a complete segment but dealing with different videos that have been broadcast at different point of time. So it is in a way it is rebroadcast or retelecast of the already, but it is not a complete segment which is retelecast, but a central point which is having relevance to the topic which is chosen for the video magazine. Uh, Video magazine, as I mentioned to you, is a very professional endeavor, and very seasoned producers or program directors only take up the assignment, because this largely deals with the certain policies of the country. Maybe video magazine can also be there for on the Indian cinema. It's past and present like this. It can also have that kind of impact. But again, while dealing with such one must say plain topics also, there has to be very serious care that even if it is Indian cinema, it is not painted adversely. No comment is made in the narration which is against the dignity and honor that is attached to the cinema industry, or a particular actor, or male or female actor, or a particular film, or a particular community, musicians, or for the situations that is presented through the visuals. So that part is very important, but at the same time, one shouldn't go into excessive editorialization, because that will again take the soul out of the body of the program. So that will be a futile effort. Dear learners, we come to another small discussion, which is the television documentary. So we discussed television, radio documentary for a while, and we also came to know that documentary is the television documentary as well as the radio documentaries have one basic notion, that is that documentary is always based on the realities. It is documentary is that what documents, means that which documents that puts things together from the facts, from the realities. So that is a difference between a feature and a documentary. We discussed about the radio feature and the radio documentary. So that is the principle of any, whether it is radio documentary or whether it is television documentary. The principal consideration is that it is based on the documents. That means it is based on the realities. That means it is based on the facts. So that has to be kept in mind. And we know it is writing for a documentary is definitely different from writing for television, for a television feature or for a television ad. While in ad there is a lot of flimsiness, that lot of flowery language, lot of jargon, lot of unconventional language is used. But for a documentary, all these are not desired. A very careful drafting has to be there, and more importantly, the as a public service broadcast media, the Akashvani and Doordarshan have been taking a great care in presentation of documentaries. There are very acclaimed producers of documentaries. We might see if we look at the different channels, very important channels. They have documentaries on the marine life, on the glaciers, on the ecology, and various other important aspects. So, and we see that there is a lot of research that goes into the documentaries. So this is very important, that facts uh, are not diluted, and the treatment of the documentary is very different from the treatment of the advertisement films or the news items or any music or dance item that is presented on the television. So we can say that as the documentary term itself denotes, documentary, that there has to be an element of establishment of the subject. It has to be well established subject, which is usually the result of very serious research on that particular subject, and it is very it has to be elaborative as well as the logical. Television documentaries are also, sometimes those are 45 to 50 minutes duration. Those they can also be 20 minutes or 25 minutes duration. That is half an hour slot will be there. That depends upon the subject. The basic requirement is that the stress on documentary is basically on the research on that on a particular subject which is chosen for the theme. So we cannot be, having that dint of breaking like a breaking news style. That we cannot bring in that kind of jerk in the documentary. It has to be very balanced, very smoothly progressing program, which will go to its height and then it will be concluded. So it is very different. In documentary, there is a very important role for narration in the documentary. If I am not exaggerating, then I will recall from my own experience with association with documentary production as a person in the media, that almost narratives or the narration part is it makes any documentary a good or bad, because if it is strongly narrated in a in a voice which has synchronization with the visuals which are to be presented. And if the topic is very emphatically grounded in the beginning, then that documentary it arouses the interest of the viewers. Of course, it has to have a treatment of a film as regards to addition of various facts to it. It has to bring about certain element of unpredictability also, because it cannot be fully predictable to the viewer. So viewer must be sticking to as to what is going to be unfolded next. So that way, if we look at the documentary writing, first of all, the theme has to be very carefully chosen. Then there has to be a very detailed discussion between the writer, the producer, and the director. So all these three people will make a very good story, a concept clarity, which will be ultimately converted into a script through the efforts of a script writer. Uh, there has to be a small, research about its need and essentiality. Essentiality means what should go into the documentary apart from the topic itself, apart from the information or the facts and the truth or the realities. What should else go into it? So if we talk about the share market, a documentary on the uh, fall or the gain in the share market, then what should be the other areas which needs to be integrated through the visuals or through the information with this particular documentary? That means there has to be an impact on the impact of the share market on the common consumer, households, industry, maybe railways, maybe an upcoming project where the lot of stake is there of the certain business houses, those who are having a very bad impact on their overall financial position through the crashing of share market. So all these things have to be very intelligently and very uh, clearly visualized, that these are going to be important aspects of this particular documentary. So documentaries, while it is basically a conglomerate of the realities and facts, these have to be corroborated by the through the treatment as it is given to the television production, whether it is news, film, or any other program. But care has to be taken that the that the producer doesn't fall prey to the excessiveness, both in choosing too many aspects as well as chiseling lot from one particular aspect, so thereby not giving it a proper space. So one particular aspect will remain weak, others will be dominating. That will not sound a good documentary. So the good documentary is one which has very strong opening narrations, then a good development, and also very concrete end. What should be the concrete end? That must make a statement, like I was talking to you about defense production in India. So it should end with a very strong point in the end, whether the country is becoming self-reliant or it still needs know-how from certain other advanced countries, and thereby a lot of cooperation is needed. So it should come into some kind of conclusive statement. Then a documentary is such a production that it cannot be produced only inside. It can be to some extent a studio production, but if one wants a variety, other aspects to be added to it, which will make it more live and more interesting. Then there has to be a mix of studio recording as well as the outside locations. So the story writer or the creative writer who is engaged to write script, ideal script should visualize as to what type of shots will be there, what how many shots will be there, and can those shots only be in studio or those shots have to be taken outside the studios. Are these shooting of the situations will be during the peak hours of the crash of the share market, or sometimes during the night time when there is a meeting going on of the big industrialists and how they are reacting to it. So sometimes, to if it is very promising discussion, then the morning sun will be short, and it will show automatically that the situation is positive. So the economic situation, or what we call the economy or the arthvyavastha, is in the rising, is shining. But if it is on the twilight, so then it has to show that well, there is danger that it might just not sink. So that kind of shot have to be there. So all this is not the role of the producer, but there is a bigger role for the script writer. He has to assume and describe all these visuals which will add emotions, which will add different moods to it. So I briefly discussed with you that there's a range of shots. Sometimes a single person, a dominating personality has to be brought in, then there is a very close shot. Then if a lot of activities have to be shot in one shot, then it is a long shot. If a few people are walking and there is a background, so but you don't want the background, then there is a medium long shot. So there are different types of shots. As I told you, in the radio, in television production, there are different terminologies which are used. There is a fade in, there is fade out, there is a cue, there is a what we call it, pan shot, there is a close ups. So a lot of such terminologies also used. So it is better that or sometimes we say zoom out, zoom in. That means bring in the subject or take the subject out. So that is zooming in and zooming out, like this. There are a lot of such aspects in the television production, and if the affinity, if the writer is not acquainted with these terms, then he cannot rely upon somebody else will take the cue from the situation and then order the shot. So the script writer, as a budding author, has to understand the media, and then he or she must also learn what is about all these technical terms, and because they make the production smooth. They allows the function to go very smoothly. Then if the author writes itself, then the girl will be zoomed out, girl will be zoomed in, the person will be taken through the close shot, or there will be a wild shot, there will be a long shot, like this. So this terminology is equally important. So what I'm trying to say is that it is very important for the budding author to learn all these terminologies. Then we all know that after the budding author or the creative author has written the script, there is a shooting script, which is typically the script which is far too precise and rather critical than the basic script. That is only for the scenes to be shot or the visuals to be shot. Then there are a lot of other things like shooting schedule and itinerary and budgeting, etc. All these issues go into this. So those are not much related to the creative author, but as a part of the media professional team, if the creative author is also involved slightly in all these activities, I think there is no harm in it, because that will give some idea as to how the production takes place, which are the various collaborators, and one very simple point but very important is that the author has to script for the unpredictable. I have already discussed with you that during the shooting itself, a lot of events unfolds in such a way that there is a lot to be thought about, that things might turn unpredictable. So this element of unpredictability has to be brought in so as to sustain the interest of the viewer. We know that in certain documentaries and certain productions, there are certain situations which are not pre-visualized. Those are not pre-visualized. Those are only, they only unfold. So one is not required to write about unpredictable, but one should write in such a way that there is space for bringing in visuals, bringing in certain other components. Those are unfolding the situation in a way that arouse a lot of interest. So those are known as writing for unpredictables. So, dear learners, as we discussed in the radio program, we will briefly discuss now about the writing for television. Specifically for the writing for television, we have already been discussing writing for the children. We all know there are a lot of television programs which are very popular amongst the children. There are cartoons, there are animation programs, there are certain educational programs, but there are certain aspects, there are certain programs which are specifically focus on the children. So the basic principle writing for children is to, first of all, categorize them in the different age groups. If we can categorize our writing based on the age of the children, then perhaps we can write more appropriately, suiting to that particular age group children. Say, for example, if we wish to write for the uh, children, then first of all we have to see uh, uh, what children normally writing for children happens for the children who are between the age of 3 to 12. There are programs which like tiny tots, like budding youngs. There are a lot of programs which are, but these tiny tots, budding youngs, like these programs are primarily to attract the children through various animations and certain toys and like that only. So there isn't much of writing, but when the children starts learning, they start to become conscious about their environment, and then they begin to attend schools, pre-nursery, nursery, and then formal school. Then there is a greater role for the writers, in terms of writing for the children, because there is need to inculcate the sense of acquiring knowledge amongst the children, as well as to develop their cognitive skills, and develop their cognition, and also to develop interest in various other skills. So that has to be through the writings. Usually or ideally, we may say that there are three groups. Usually, there are three groups in the television writing. Those groups are like 3 to 6 years, which is known as a preschool group. In that case, the children will not go to formal school, but they will be informally enrolled in some kind of play schools or pre schools. So that is nursery, the KG, kindergarten, etc. Then the children go to school. So that happens after the age of 6 years. Those are young children. Then for there's this group which is like first to third. Then they are 7 to 9 years and 10 to 12 years, and then older children. So these three group will represent the not only the children in a sense, but they will represent the needs of age, these categories of children which are falling in a particular age group. So keeping in view this particular age category parameters, the writer can can write contents which have different types of knowledges to be inculcated, to be built in the children, development of cognitive skills, and development of certain other skills which are necessary for their survival. Uh, if we look at the basic criteria that is for the for writing for children in the television, so first of all, children have to be treated as uh, they are not to be treated only toys, only tiny tots anymore. Children means they are the young adults. So that means their needs are also similar to those that of the adults. So but of course, their degree and variance will be such that those meet the requirement of the children. So like young child, do not have much experience, worldly experience. Then how does one learn? How does one analyzes the things? So that has to be brought into the program, that they also get to know the technique, the strategy as to how to analyze the various things. uh, uh, Children also are not very open, very advanced, or I should say acclaimed in the word power. They don't understand if somebody is using the words slightly mischievously. They just understand their word meaning. If there is a crow, that means a bird for them. That doesn't sound anything else to them. So the writing for children must be such that it deals with that kind of aspect. It shouldn't lead them to confusion. So their physical and social world is very realistic world. Their physical and social world is very realistic. All that is great for a child is his or her mother and then father. So they don't have anybody else greater than their parents. So that is their physical and social world. Their physical world is they know the child cannot do this particular thing. They have a natural intimidation to certain objects, certain animals. So they know their physical and social world very well. So nothing can be built which is beyond this particular understanding of the children. Then they don't understand, certain other tricky terms. What is idealism? What is liberty? What is manipulation? These are not the children's like, as well as they don't understand their dynamism. So these should be avoided, but they should be introduced at this stage. So very importantly, uh, the children's writing must be simple and based on the commonly used words which are easy to understand and do not have double meanings or do not have the complex relationships. Such intricacies of human relationship cannot be brought into children's writing. Instead, there should be characters. There should be certain other elements which motivates them to inculcate good habits and not to get into any confusion. So the children see something purely, either it is good or it is bad. So that has to be kept in mind. So complex characters, complex writing, complex sentences shouldn't be there with the children. Children's with slightly middle age, like 6 to 9 or 7 to 9, gets little accustomed to the social tone, social tenor. So there is need to give little attention to the journal worldview, but at the same time, it has still not to be very complex. When children are from 9 to 12, they should be introduced to the classics like Panchtantra, like Aesop's fables, like fairy tales, so that they bring about the historical characters to their understanding, and maybe little more imagination, little more thinking on these characters. How do they? But they should be concluded in a way that they leave some message, some teachings in the end. So if that all happens, then perhaps the writing will be worthwhile and fruitful. Uh, I think, like all other writings, for television writing, specifically meant for children, needs proper research. But one important aspect of research that is required for the children's writing, there has to be formative research. I do not know whether you are aware of the formative research. Formative research means the research which can be modified. So there can't be final verdict on certain aspects, certain skills or certain areas. Any program that is based on the research made for children should be formative. As the knowledge grows and it amalgamates with other facets of life, there is always a scope to improve it. So it has to be built, because an adult can, by his or her own capacity, rationalize the facts, rationalize the attainment. But the children do not have that kind of capacity with them. So it is very important that the research is formative. That means it can be refurbished, it can be remodified. So the children's writing must have this component. In fact, the Center for Researches and the Influences of Television on Children very strongly puts that in their studies, that the audiovisual and linguistic and representational codes on children must be such that those do not interfere with the hard realities of the life as well as the society, but they continuously, moderated and updated. So there is a great need for research, but research, particularly associated with children's program, should be formative. That means it should be frequently conducted on the similar lines, and then whatever new facts emerges, those should be incorporated into the already existing research. That, if putting it in simple words, means that there is need to properly scrutinize the facts which are to be brought into children's writing, but those cannot be final informations or final facts, because they keep on changing as the society evolves. So they need to be continuously researched and continuously refurbished or modified. So if that all happens with the children's writing, I am sure there will definitely be good writing for the children. And what we want from the children's writing means they will benefit from television programs to a great extent. So their programs must be exploratory as well as informative and knowledge based. Uh, Maybe a person who is writing for children should be well oriented. He should be able to distinguish between the desirable contents and the undesirable contents, and he should be able to put them in a storytelling manner, in a problem solving manner. We already discussed from known to unknown, from simple to complex, like this approach is very much there in building of the contents. So there is very serious demand that undesirable contents must not be part of the children's writing. Those which are obscene, those which are not properly styled, those are ritualistic, violent, and those which leads to distortions and twisted understanding or negative or rude behavior based contents, etc. All those should be avoided. So I am sure a good author or the children's script writer will be definitely a good creative person. He or she must be a good thinker, creative person, and they should write for the ear. That means what he or she writes should be appealing to the children, and then it should uh, focus on the facts or the screen, and there must be counterpoint visuals. That means there should be comparable visuals. So there is a need for a recentering. That means the contents must be repeated, focused time and again. So if we do all this, I'm sure definitely there will be good and educative writing for the children. So give me just 1 second. I'm back. So with this, I conclude my discussion that children's writing must also be very humorous. Then there shouldn't be metaphors which are not expected with the children's working their understanding, and we should be very sensitive about the cultural specificities. We should make comments about the issues which are very common and very sensitive to the society. So all these things are very important, and as I mentioned initially, they should be very appropriately designed, very apt for the screen, for these television programs. That is the basic requirements. But very importantly, that children do not get bored with such contents. So they should, attract the children's They should sound very appealing to them. Children should love to listen, see the contents, and they should become more sensitive, more considerate, no twisting, like that. So with this, I come to the conclusion, and I would like to have your views upon the specialized programs for television. Those like we discussed, radio, television advertisements, then the video magazines, then documentary, then writing for children uh, on the television. I am having a little bad throat today, so please come with your query if there is any. We would like to discuss maybe for 5 to 10 minutes. Any question or any further discussion? We have one learner who is attached with us. Would you like to raise an inquiry?
No, sir. Uh, I'm okay.
Okay, thank you. So, I would like to conclude that today we discussed four different topics. The first one was the radio, the television advertisements, how those are different from the radio, and what makes the advertisements, what is the nature of the contents of the advertisements, and what is the objective of the advertisement. All these issues were discussed. We also discussed the video magazines as opposed to the video or the single component programs which are prepared for the television. So we came to know that the video magazine programs contain actually a number of small videos which are taken from the series, which is different videos which have been already broadcast or telecast, and then those are put in sequence, and there's a chain of several videos which makes the video magazines. Radio documentary, as I mean, television documentary is and the radio documentaries have basic common elements in them, but the television documentary brings about a lot with the visuals, so it has a different script writing needs, and the documentary, is basically presenting the facts, while those are narrated through the narrations in the radio documentary, but coming to the television, all that part of there's a little role for the narration, but very important role for the narrations or the narrator. But there is a greater role of the visuals which depicts the reality or the locale of the situation. So it has to be fully in consonance with the narrations has to be fully in consonance with the visuals which are presented to make the narration actually to make the narration actualized through the visuals. So all this balance is very very important. And as we found out that the treatment is the same as for any other television program, television production, be it film, be it serial, be it small play or sports program. But the more importantly, the documentary must end with a definitive statement, definitive conclusion. What was the discussion point, and how does that end in the situation? And finally, we discussed children's writing, what is the different age group for writing purpose, what should be the nature of the contents, what should go into the contents, what should be avoided, and how the writings can be interesting and can be appealing to the children. So these are few points. Maybe you will corroborate these discussions with your study material, which perhaps you will already be having or maybe referring it online. So put together, all this makes very good study for understanding the need for writing for television in its various genres. I hope our discussion will make some issues clear, though it has to be understood in detail, keeping in the contents also with you, because for preparation in the examination you will require to go through the entire body of the contents, and perhaps our discussion then can uh, make some leading points, but essentially you have to go through the entire contents. So with this, I will conclude the today's session. My throat is a little sore, so I will take maybe 10 minutes earlier. But if still there is some point which you would like to put in for the discussion, I'll welcome it maybe for a couple of minutes more. So BK has also joined us. Any point, any uh, feedback? Uh, since no further point is there to be discussed, I will conclude this session, and we will meet again, maybe probably tomorrow for the session, which will be, discussing another genres of creative writing, that is the poetry. And in poetry, we will discuss how it is a very specialized genre. It is very important aspects of creative writing, and how the human human is presented. What is the basis? What are the various devices that creative writer uses in the literary writings, especially with the poetry. So we will focus on these aspects in the beginning session tomorrow. It will have four blocks, and each block will have a specialized understanding, like various voices which speaks in the poetry, then which are different metaphors, then different strategies which are used. So, what should make one good poetry writer? All those traits will be discussed. So, I hope we will have good sessions now in this particular course, which is DCE 5, Writing Poetry. So, with this, I conclude and wish you a very good day for the remaining period of this particular day, and look forward to meeting you tomorrow. So, good day, and thank you very much to be with us. Thank you, RC. We will meet tomorrow. So, we will take a break now. So, once again, have a very good day.